Coaches Association. And I want to thank everyone for attending today's virtual clinic. We're excited for our next speaker. Coach Brady Walls comes to us from Ankeny High School, and he is the wide receiver and speed coach there. And his topic today is on offensive organization and progression. So with that, Coach, thank you again so much for doing this, and I will let you take it away.
All right, appreciate you guys. This is going to be a blast. I obviously love the football down in Southern California. I think most people across the country would. So I know when Coach Rice reached out to me, it was pretty much a no-brainer. It was kind of just deciding on what the topic was going to be. But I know I'm excited to be sharing with a lot of you guys, and then know that I have it in the works right now. I'm trying to get out to Southern Cal here in the end of July. They gave us kind of a late dead week here in Iowa. Iowa likes to do things last minute. And if you guys remember any, the primary elections and things like that, we usually botch it up last minute as well. So I got to get my shots in while I can. Anyway, no, trying to get out there end of July. So if there are some of you guys, in the area, I know there's a few guys out there that I'd like to get to see, but if that's an opportunity, I'd love to be able to hopefully hook up and talk a little bit of ball with some of you guys as well. So end of July, keep that in mind. I'm going to go ahead and get my screen share going here, so we'll have it up and running. I'm just going to talk to you guys real quick about offensive organization and progression. Is probably going to kind of be all over the place. I tried to kind of set this up, I guess. Let me move this down here. All right, tried to set this up kind of to where I'm going to talk about what I do in the off season. We were lucky enough this last year to win the state title. This is a picture of three of my receivers from the past, and we've been really blessed with a lot of good players. So 2020 state champions. You take down the 7-time defending state champions here in Iowa. We'd done a lot of things building up to this point. It was kind of 6-7 years in the making, and honestly, Ankeny's been a pretty big program throughout the state of Iowa, but they split the school in 2013, and this was the first state title since the split. So the way we see it is it's the first state title at this high school. So we did build it from scratch, and I just want to kind of talk with you guys a little bit about how it kind of started and how we built it as well. So I'll talk about off-season process, and then Coach Schneider's a good buddy of mine as well at Bixby, and he's talked a lot about players, formations, and plays. That's kind of been one of our mantras here at Ankeny. So kind of talking about that organization, that progression, and how we do things. Also, we do Run the Power. I'm sure several of you guys have listened to it, but Run the Power is where it gives us a lot of opportunity to be able to meet a lot of other coaches. Okay. One other plug I want to give you guys, if you guys want to come out to Iowa, we just booked Coach Holler for TFC Iowa. So July 23rd and 24th at Ankeny High School. And he actually just got the first guest. Coach Joey G is one of the most progressive strength coaches in the country. And this is just the first announcement. So if you guys get a chance, I know there's people all across the country, but we would love to have you at our place and show you around our place and be able to clinic with you guys further. So, maybe mark a few of those dates down as well if you guys can get up to the Midwest. All right. So my off-season process, guys, I'm a huge fan of Lebowski, and this is one of my favorite scenes. Him getting ready for the bowling tournament, laying there and just listening to, the ball roll down the lane and hit the pins, things like that. But, kind of just getting in his flow and his zen. Guys, that's literally me in the off season with football, things like that. It's not really go, go, go. It's more relax, find a few things that I find super interesting, and I really immersed myself in it. So kind of wanted to share a few of those things with you guys, that I've been passionate about. I know Coach Rice had said, hey, Coach Walls, talk about a few things that you're passionate about. So I only study stuff that I'm passionate about. So I just kind of wanted to talk about some of the things I've been studying. So here's been my Lebowski trip this off season. Okay. One of the guys I've really started looking into, and I teach science as well, Richard Feynman, a famous, U.S. physicist, quantum mechanics, quantum physics. But I think he's more famous to me as a teacher, a guy that was, brilliant, super high IQ, wins the Nobel Prize in physics, but he's there to teach freshman level classes at college, right? And that was one of the things, he kind of said was, if I can't explain something to freshmen, if I can't explain something to some of our more basic learners, I don't understand it well enough. So if you can't explain something in simple terms, you really don't understand it, right? So I could sit here and I could BS you guys about a lot of different things. I might have some, off the cuff knowledge about things, and maybe I could play along with it. But at the end of the day, if you ask me to really explain something that I didn't know, I wouldn't be able to explain it simply. It'd just be a big long strand of BS. Okay, so I've really taken this to heart. And same thing with kids that I teach in the classroom. When I know that they're, quote, meeting the standard, they should be able to explain it to me really simply, right? So if I can explain it to them simply and they can explain it back to me simply, we're both going to be on the same page. So I'm on a constant search for understanding and trying to make things as simple as I possibly can. Okay. So that leads me into Bloom's taxonomy, right? If anyone's heard me speak before, I talk about educational stuff all the time. I was an instructional coach. Don't ask me how I got that job. I don't consider myself a great teacher by any means. I think I just pay attention. I try to, have good relationships with kids, and when there's things I don't understand, I really dive into it. So I love this chart and the way they've put together Bloom's, because I like the bottom where it says teacher led, and you could put coach in there as well, right? We're helping them with the where, right? You got to know where to go. When's the snap count? Who do you block? What's your assignment, right? And then understanding a little bit of it too, right? Why are we going to do this? How do I do this? Okay. Beyond that, guys, it comes down to the players, right? So literally it's player centered or student centered for them to be able to apply what they've learned, to be able to analyze situations, right? To be able to evaluate, does this work? Does this not work? What might be a better option? And then ultimately create, right? Create big plays and make those big plays. Okay. I do the same thing as a coach, right? So I'll find something that a coach shares with us. Maybe it's on Run the Power. Maybe it's something I read. Maybe it's something I find, but it's always going to be at this early level, right? Then I have to find out, well, how's this going to work, right? I have to dive into it to be able to apply it. I analyze it. Why are they using this? What down and distance? Okay. Does this make sense? What are they suggesting? I evaluate, does it fit what we want to do? And at the end of the day, I'm going to create something. So when we talk about new installs, that's what I'm doing first, right? New plays, I need to analyze them and see if that's something we want to apply and evaluate, okay? Looking at our own self-scout, do a ton of that in the off season, right? What were we good at? What were we not good at? Should we keep it? Should we get rid of it? And then film breakdown. Every single year, guys, I find a team and I break down every single play. I don't do much more than one team because, again, I think then it becomes paralysis by analysis, right? I'll talk a little bit more about essentialism, but I'm going to find one team. There might be a couple teams or there might be a few games, but I say one team is where I'm going to take the deep dive on, and I'm going to find out all the things they do. So the teams that led the nation in scoring, the teams that, win the national championship, I'm going to follow those guys because I'm still going to have to evaluate it. Right. And people could say all they want. Well, yeah, it's because they have great players. I want to know what they do with their great players. Where do they put their great players? How do they get their great players the ball? Everybody knows they have great players. Everybody's trying to stop their great players. What are they doing to amplify their great players? So I don't get hung up on any of that stuff at all because I feel like we're going to have great players and teams are going to try to take them away. So you can always pull something from that. And then at the end of the day, we talk about this create. I'm going to show you guys a few things that I do in the off season, but I make teach tapes all the time. So if you guys have ever been on Run the Power Premium, I've got a whole set of install videos I do. Guys, I share those with our players too. So I share with other coaches, I share with players. But again, as I'm talking about it, as I'm speaking, as I'm building it, I'm building my knowledge base on our offense, right? I'm totally immersed in our offense. I become a master of what we're doing on offense, a master of techniques, okay? Guys, I'm huge on concept maps, all right? I build concept maps all the time, and then I build presentations like the one I'm showing you guys today, okay? All this leads up to the stuff that we call deep level work, right? Stuff where I'm going to free myself of distraction. I'm diving into these things. I'm breaking down film. I'm analyzing our self-scout, and then I'm creating things after that, right? The same stuff we ask our kids to do in class, okay? I'm doing the exact same thing, right? When we're in class with our kids and I'm teaching things, I'm doing the same things with them to hopefully model some of that, right? It's not just me saying it. I'm doing the same thing with them. I build the projects, I do the experiments, I do the data, all that stuff. Okay. Right. So concept mapping, just so you guys can take a look here. I just use a program called MindMup, and it's real simple. Dude, free on Google, MindMup 2.0. And all it allows you to do is be able to draw a concept map. So sometimes I'll draw them in my notebooks. I'll be able to zoom out here a little bit so you guys can see it. And I'll show you this, in a little bit greater detail later, right? But it'll look like a lot of chicken scratch to you guys, okay? But it's a way for me to organize our 5-step passing game, right? Being able to put it into buckets. This is how we want to, work deep horizontal stretches, underneath space stretches, okay? 1/3 of the field stretch and flood, okay? And then putting it all into our different categories, where we want to attack, what are our play names, and then making connections, okay? So just by doing this, by thinking about it, by manipulating it, by playing with it, I'm learning our offense even better than I already knew it, okay? So that's what a concept map would be for those of you that maybe didn't know what a concept map was. I didn't know what it was until a couple of years ago either, okay? So that's one of the things I use. I like to do it on the computer because obviously I'm breaking down film as I'm doing that. All right. So we talk about essentialism, right? In the off season, I know Coach Holler had put me on this book. Tony Holler, of Feed the Cats fame. He's become one of my good friends. Through the podcast. Honestly, I put the podcast on here because we get the opportunity to meet so many brilliant people. It's become a really good service, I think, that we do to a lot of coaches, but a lot of people maybe forget, like, the selfish reasons we started it was Coach Harper and I were super bored and we wanted to be able to talk ball like we're doing with you guys right now. So literally we start up the podcast because Harper and I are bored. We're 500 miles apart. He's in Oklahoma, I'm in Iowa. We'd coached together. And that was what we had done when we were sitting in the coaching office all the time. He's like, Walls, I just want to sit here with you. Let's talk ball. Right. And we would do that for hours on end. We get up on the whiteboard, we pull up video, we'd hash everything out that we could. Well, now this gave us a platform to be able to do it, right, on a larger scale at a distance. Okay. So we bring people in all the time. And that's all I'm doing, guys, right? I'm literally taking notes the whole time, right? I have this notebook's from when I taught at Jenks. This would have been in 2012. So this notebook's 9 years old. I keep filling it up with stuff. I have a pen that I put in each one of these things. I got about 4 of them, right? So I'm constantly exploring different things, right? And literally anything, okay? I'll watch all kinds of different things. I read, I observe, and I try to find possible connections to what it is that I do. My wife will laugh. We watch The Voice. I like watching The Voice because they are coaches. And I like hearing the different ways that the 4 people actually coach people. So I think there's possible connections, right? And she laughs at me because I'm like sitting here trying to coach them up too. I'm like, this person, they should say this. They're too hard on them. They're not hard enough on them. I mean, it's funny, but it relates to what we do. And there's an artistry to it, right? And there's all kinds of cool things I think you can gather from it. But I'm taking notes as I'm watching The Voice with her. And she thinks I'm crazy, but that's what I do, right? So I'm instantly evaluating things too. So I explore. I have all this free time to explore. Right. I'm able to then evaluate. Okay. And I learn this from essentialism. Guys, this has made my life way better. Right. If I can't rate something a 9 or a 10, right. So I have my 9 or 10 scale. If I can't rate it a 9 or a 10, it's an automatic 0. Because if it's a 6 or a 5 or something like that, unless it's obviously, you got to mow the lawn, you got to take out the trash, things like that I don't want to do, it needs to get done. Okay. But things that I can choose and things that I want to be able to do, if it's not a 9 or a 10, it's gone. Because I'm not going to have the passion to do that next level, right? I'm not going to be able to execute on it if I'm not super passionate about it, right? So if I don't believe in it, if I don't think it's going to help me, if I don't think it's going to help our program, if I don't think our athletes would benefit, if I don't think our coaching staff would benefit from some of that, it's a 0, right? There's no in between. So being able to evaluate and find those things that are really, really important, that's when you can really take a deep dive, because I'm not bogging myself down with all the meaningless stuff that's out there. Okay. So the last part is then execute. Once I've found something that I feel like, hey man, that's really, really good. A coach, you gave us a great idea. I'm going to research and learn everything I can find on it, whether it's, you know, the topic, the quote, the interview, the show, the insight, the advice, the process they told us about. I'm going to start researching and learn everything. Here's the other thing that, at least for me, I implemented immediately. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to evaluate, I'm going to see where I'm at. Perfectly fine. That's perfectly a great way to do it. I can't do it that way, right? I'm one of those guys that has to start doing it right now, and I'm going to practice. I'm going to make mistakes, right? Because I feel like making mistakes and practicing are going to be the best ways to learn, right? And again, same thing in the classroom. Give them things to do. Let them make mistakes, right? We can't hide kids from making mistakes, guys. We learn the most as a coach from the mistakes we've made. You guys all remember the losses you've had, the big losses, right? The kid that you couldn't reach, the bad play call that we had, right? I could already list my top 5 bad play calls, right? So, I mean, those are the mistakes that you end up learning from. You're like, I'll never do that again. Okay. I would have never changed if I didn't make any mistakes, or if I wouldn't learn from those mistakes, or if I did something that wasn't going to, you know, stretch me, and I'm going to make mistakes. Okay. So that's when you really grow, right? So I don't think, you know, sitting there on, well, do we do it or not? Screw it, do it, right? And then see what happens from there, right? If it sucks, it sucks. Get rid of it. You figured it out. Hey, that wasn't that good, or I'm not very good at coaching it, whatever it might be, okay? So some of the things that I came back to again, so I do my film breakdowns, right? Look at our self-scouts. You know, I've been building my concept maps, you know, have all these off-season things. You know, what were some of the revelations, right? What were some of my John Wick moments, okay? I always got to put John Wick in a what do I say, presentation. Sorry, it's what I got to do every single time. Coach Harper laughs at me. There you go, Coach Harper. I put John Wick in there, right? So some of the things I instantly took myself back to, I instantly went back to this book, right? So I'd been sitting there, you know, and I'm researching all these different things, and it brought me back to this book I'd read a long time ago, and I'm like, what a moron! I should have went back to this the whole time. Right. So the 4 disciplines of execution, you guys saw execution on the last slide, right? Being able to execute better, being able to execute plans, right? Being able to implement and execute. Okay. Took me all the way back to this, right? Being able to prioritize. What are your lead measures? Are you keeping score? And then what's your way to keep it accountable? Right. And I'm going to share with you guys some of the things we've been doing at Ankeny that have really helped us. Okay. And it brought me all back to this, because I shouldn't have been an idiot and forgot about it to begin with, right? Okay, so number 1, prioritize, right? There it is, players, formation, and plays, okay? Most people, I would say, agree with this, right? Players are the most important, formations and plays. For us guys, players are literally the gold, right? Players in our program are the VIPs, right? We treat our players, or I hope we do, right? We treat our players better than anybody else. Right. The players are the absolute most important people within the program. So when you're talking about prioritizing anything, I mean, you can sit there and talk about standards, discipline, behavior, whatever thing you want to put on a board. If it's not about developing players for us, it's not worth it. Right. Prioritize our players. What can we do to develop them? Okay. So again, I think a lot of people say this, it's players, formations, and plays, but then we instantly go to the formations and plays. Right? Where are we going to put these guys in the form? What are the plays we're going to run with these guys? Okay. Rather than looking back at players, if I make great players, or I develop great players, all the rest of that stuff takes care of itself. It's going to be super easy. Okay. So players are the VIPs, man. It's the gold standard. We're going to find as many ways as we can to prioritize our players and make them the best we can possibly do, right? We want to be able to attract players. We want to be able to develop them. We want to be able to empower them. I'll show you guys that later. Okay, so players are the VIP. That's what we prioritize, number 1, right? As a group, we carry what we call collective efficacy. So again, if you pay attention in PD, you probably have a lot of places that talk about collective efficacy, right? I follow a lot of John Hattie. John Hattie's, you know, to me, one of the masters of analysis, right? He did the whole meta-analysis to figure out, you know, what were some of the best things you could do to teach your kids the best, okay? There's so many correlations to coaching, okay? So collective efficacy, right? Shared belief that our staff has a positive impact on athlete achievement, right? That's the bottom line, is what we think, right? Hey, the way we think, the way we treat people, the way we treat kids, the way we talk to them, the way we say they can or can't do something, that has an unbelievable effect on what they do. The 1.57 there, guys, that's how strong the correlation is to high achievement. It's the highest on the whole scale. So if your entire football staff believes, hey, if we have a positive impact on how the athlete achieves, rather than saying, oh, well, I guess the kid didn't show up and the kid didn't lift, it's his fault, he should have done more. No, we take that personally, right? Or at least I know in our position group, we take that personally, right? It's my job to try to reach as many kids as I can and to have that high standard of achievement for our kids, okay? We're part of a team working for our athletes, right? We're not working for ourselves. We're not working for the city of Ankeny. We're not working for the school, okay? Those are all important, don't get me wrong, right? But our athletes are number one. We're working for the athletes, okay? If athletes do well, all the rest of it takes care of itself. If I have great athletes, I'm going to be a great coach. If we have great athletes, the community is going to be proud of them, okay? If we have great athletes and they do the right things, our school is going to be proud of them, okay? So go with that lead factor, right? We'll talk about that next, but your athletes are the most important, okay? When coaches carry this, right, they generally have a positive attitude about professional development. Let's be honest, okay? Sitting around the table after a PD meeting with your coaching staff, probably not the most positive conversation that's happening, okay? I'm not gonna lie to you guys. There's horrible PD out there. It's awful, right? There's really, really bad things that are being done in professional development, okay? But there's also some things that you can really, really pick from and make you a lot better, okay? So generally, if we have this kind of positive outlook for our athletes, we have a better outlook towards PD, okay? And we're also going to implement some of these new strategies, okay? Guys, there's so much great information out there. Again, implement this stuff. Don't be scared to launch. Don't be scared to make mistakes, okay? Then you look at our athletes, their behavior improves, okay? When they know coaches believe in them, they know coaches like them, they know coaches care about their health, they know coaches care about their high performance, their behavior gets better and they have a more positive belief about their own ability and their ability to learn, right? It becomes contagious. Okay. So our pillars of success at Ankeny, right? And these are some of the things, we've been looking at. Probably make it a little bit easier if I did that. Okay. Attract, develop, and empower, right? So number one, we want to attract the best athletes, right? I want to run a position group of wide receivers that attracts the best athletes in Ankeny High School. Okay. If I get the best athletes in Ankeny High School out, we're probably going to be okay. Okay. And if it attracts other athletes from surrounding places that want to move in, right? Guys, we have a social media presence. Okay. I don't know who's going to move to Ankeny, right? There might be a wide receiver right now in Southern California. His dad gets a job in Ankeny, right? I'm hoping he's a great wide receiver and I'm hoping he wants to come to Ankeny High School. Okay. So I'm going to take every opportunity that we possibly can to attract the best possible athletes to Ankeny High School and to, selfishly my position group, okay? Then we're going to develop them, right? And we're going to use kind of this pyramid to develop our kids, right? The basis of any pyramid, right? Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We want our athletes happy, healthy, rested and recovered. We want them to experience winning a lot, okay? We find ways for them to win. We compete and allow them to win, okay? We're going to love them and we're going to encourage them. I had to put encourage in green. I know Coach Holler had said he likes the attract, develop, and empower. He's like, you need to encourage on there. Like Coach Holler, it's already on there. I just need to put it in green, man. Okay. Tired is the enemy for us, right? We're not about making them tired. We're about making them effective, high achieving weapons. Okay. Next for us is then speed and power, right? We'll talk a little bit more about that, but we want our skill kids super, super fast. We want our linemen super, super powerful and also fast and explosive. Okay, so we feel that's going to be the cornerstone to our program, fast and powerful. Okay, and then the last thing, obviously, still going to be important. We're still worried about strength and skill, but if you're fast and powerful, you're probably going to be stronger and you're going to be a more skilled football player. Okay, build racehorses, not workhorses. We're going to talk a little bit about minimum effective dose. We don't go any farther than that. And the last part, once kids have it, we empower them. Okay, I'm not going to be the one that overcoaches it. Again, you talk about balloons. I'm at the bottom of that triangle. Once I've gotten to that next level, I'm helping them analyze. I'm helping them evaluate. I'm helping them to create. That's all I'm doing. I'm just there. Okay. They're the ones on the field. They're the war daddies. They're the ones making the plays. So we empower them to go get those things done. Right. Love this quote from Coach Holler. No debate. Injury and illness are products of high volume intensity. Performances suffer when athletes are overtrained. Nervous systems crash when they're overloaded. Beaten and battered athletes lose their love of sport. To me, there's no greater sin as a coach if I have a kid who does no longer love playing under my watch, right? Kids that get overuse injuries and things like that. I don't want to ever have those anymore. I want my kids fast and fresh. I want them ready to go, and I want them just chomping at the bit to go out and play on Friday nights, okay? Or to go race on the track. Tomorrow we got our conference track meet. So our guys are fresh. Our guys are fast. They're excited to go. They're not, man, I can't wait for the season to be done, right? Second thing we talked about, right? What are your lead measures? So you see the stuff over here in the white, right? Everybody looks at rush yards, right? We got to have more yards rushing. We got to win the rushing battle. We got to have more explosive plays, right? We got to play great defense. We can't lose in the kicking game, okay? Again, that's putting the formations in plays ahead of what's really important. Guys, it's still about the players, right? If our players knock down people, right, and our receivers on the perimeter, our guys and skill guys on the perimeter have more effort blocks, and we define effort blocks as you're hooked up for 3 seconds or more on the perimeter. Effort blocks and knockdowns will run for more yards. Our screens will go longer. Okay, that's the lead measure. So we measure these. The rush yards takes care of itself. So that's what we're talking to our guys about. Hey, if we knock more guys down, and if we have built more effort blocks, we'll run for more yards. Okay. The second one, guys, team speed is one and the same. If we have more team speed, we will have more explosive plays, right? Period. Bottom line. You don't have to worry about scheming anything up, right? You'll throw a hitch route to a guy, he'll break it, and he'll go, right? You hand the ball off to an explosive dude, right? You got those running backs like Bosco and them have. Boom, one guy breaks it, he's gone, right? Explosive plays happen because guys are fast, right? For the most part. Same thing. You want to be better on defense? Be fast. Pretty simple, right? You want to be better on special teams? Have more fast guys, right? If we have more fast guys, we can rest our fast guys on defense. We can play our fast guys on special teams. Now our fast guys stay really, really fast. They play really, really fast on defense, and they play really, really fast on special teams. Pretty simple formula, right? If you look at where we were at in 2019, we were a quarterfinal team. This was after the quarterfinals, guys. And again, we didn't have, we just gotten our free lap system, but we tested November 19th, 2019. We had one athlete at 20 miles per hour, okay? When we tested last week, okay, we are now up to 123 total athletes that have broke 20 plus miles per hour, right? It's ridiculous, right? You start to have all of that culture of speed, that starts to show up in all of these different areas, okay? And that's that Pareto principle, right? If we're developing our players, they're getting faster, they know how to knock people down and block with great effort and great technique. Guess what? That 20%, that's going to give us 80% of our results. I don't have to literally do anything else as a coach, okay? That gives me a lot more time to do this and really, really fine tune and tweak how to beat some of these other teams that we're going to have to scheme up a little bit, okay? But the basics are going to be covered, right? Get faster, teach them how to knock people down, teach them how to stay in front of people and give effort, right? With great technique. Guess what? You're going to be just fine in all of these areas that we generally consider win football games, okay? Third one, keep score. Find a way to keep score. Find a way to get data on your kids, okay? So you see, I know Coach Holler, again, record, rank, publish, right? Record as much data as you can. Rank it, right? Gives kids a win. You get a PR, you beat somebody, you can talk smack. Kids love that, and then publish it, right? We have our own website, we publish it, we put it out all the time, okay? Measure your lead measures. So just like I'd said here, right? We measure knockdowns, we measured effort blocks, we measure our team speed, right? We know how fast we are, right? And we continue to do it throughout the season. Some of our guys continue to get faster as the season goes along, okay? So we measure that, right? We also say this, oh, you're all about rest and recovery. We measure how many days off we give them, right? We're measuring how much time we're practicing, okay? We're measuring all those things so we know, right? And then same thing again, your self-scout, right? So data is always going to have the best idea, guys, right? And we're going to have a central section of data collection that we keep track of all over the place, okay? So I'll show you a few examples of the data that we keep. So Feed the Hawks is for us, again, a play on Feed the Cats. Guys, we don't need to be original. Coach Holler's got a great program, right? We'll just make it part of our own, right? So we call it Feed the Hawks, right? We're keeping track of all of the speeds that our guys can run. So again, This last week, we had a huge wind. Obviously, we run with the wind. You see all of the different PRs that we had in the 10 fly, right? We keep track of our fastest guys of all time, right? And I run that all the way down. You guys can see it, right? We go all the way down to the, let's see, we've had over 200 kids test in our program now, 220 kids, right? And 123 of them have all hit 20 miles per hour or more, okay? We keep track of jumps, right? We keep track of all of these different things that our kids know, and then we put it on our website so the kids can all see this. So when this happened last week, all of our kids were able to see it, okay? Same thing with like our war board, right? So I coach the receivers. We call ourselves, war daddies. Okay, war stands for win with aggression and relentlessness. Here's where we would keep track of what we're going to do. So we already have a built in for whenever our first game would be. We're keeping track of the behaviors that we want to keep track of: knockdowns, effort blocks, warrior plays would kind of be at my discretion, and then any explosives that they would make in the pass game, right? Obviously, the negatives, lack of effort, mental errors, we're also going to keep track of and try to minimize those as much as we can. Okay, so tracking these things, kids see it every single week. Record it, rank it, and publish it. Kids talk smack, they compete. Who had the most knockdowns? Who had the most effort blocks? Who made the most big plays? Right? That's what it's all about. Flood them with dopamine, they'll keep making plays for you. Okay. Our defensive board, right? Coach Nelson does a great job with our defensive guys. So I'll show you guys just a quick defensive board that he does. But again, there are three things that they're measuring, right? Relentless pursuit, violent plays, right? Plays that you showed where you played with violence, right? Taking on a block, a big hit, whatever it might be, stripping the ball, and then turnovers. So again, only the three things that they're worried about, and the rest of it kind of takes care of itself, right? Relentless pursuit, violence, and turnovers. Makes it really, really simple. Our kids know exactly what those things are. And again, it becomes something that they're going to continue to build on as the year goes on, right? You start to see more and more of these plays as the year goes along, right? Those behaviors are getting reinforced, okay? So we also sit down, right, and we'll talk about these things. So we'll share this data with the kids, we'll share it with the other coaches, and then we process it, all right? So we're able to, meet about these things and be able to, see where can we get better, or where are some areas we're not going to do it. That's kind of our form of accountability. Right? So consistent data review every single week. We have a meeting on Sunday, right? And we always want to bring data to these meetings because it mitigates bias, right? You hear this all the time, the bias and assumption, right? Well, I think it might be this, or it could be this, right? Or maybe it's, somebody doesn't have a great relationship with a kid, or doesn't like a kid, or they assumed it was this kid's fault, but it really wasn't, right? By having data, there's not going to be any bias. The data never lies, right? Man, our right side protections versus our left side protections, maybe they seem like they're not as good. Well, let's look at the data. Oh, you're right, they're not. Okay, so being able to have that hardline data, it gives us a really good place to start the conversation, and then also, really identify the problem. Okay, so it allows us to really highlight that needed improvement, right? What's the data say? What does our self scout say? What does our film breakdown obviously say? Okay, then again, it highlights where we need to redesign our practices, right? Are our guys beat up? Are our guys recovered? Are our guys healthy? Are our guys not healthy? Okay, do we need to back off a little bit? Could we go a little bit longer? If we do go longer, where do we want to go longer to get the most bang for our buck? So practice design becomes huge. And this last one, guys, I cannot stress this enough, right? Load management, okay? As a wide receiver coach, to me, that's probably my number one job, right? I'm going to have my 3-4 studs. I need to manage their load during the week in practice. Okay, so that's where the feed the cats philosophy has really, really flipped my thinking. Okay, when we've got the work done that we need, we're done. We're not going to do anything extra that we have to. And if we do have to polish some things up, I'm putting another group of guys in because I want them to be, at their best. So managing their load, if they need to take days off, there's nothing wrong with that. We've established that culture, like, hey, so-and-so needs a day off, or so-and-so needs a couple of days off. Okay. Your studs are still going to be fine on Friday, right? Their teammates are still going to love them. They're still going to want them to play and make big plays because everybody likes winning. So as long as, that kid's not one of the biggest jackasses in the world, which is going to be my job to manage, but they're going to be okay with them taking a little bit off their legs. Okay. Things to ask. I read a great article I think it was Coach Lima that I got it from, but, talking about, where was the breakdown? Was it a tactical breakdown? Was that, something we did wrong? Did we employ it wrong? Was it a bad play? Was it a technique breakdown, technical? Okay. Psychological breakdowns. I think so many times we don't maybe understand what's going on in that kid's life. So, maybe it's a psychological breakdown. What is he dealing with at home? What is he dealing with his girlfriend? What's he dealing with his classes? Or is it just a physical breakdown, right? Maybe he's not healthy. Right? So I think all those things kind of come into play. But, having that data, having those conversations on a weekly basis really, really puts you back in this mode, right? Let's maximize our players, and then we can get to this last part, right? That's going to be what we do as coaches, right? Let's find the formations in place then that maximize our personnel. Guys, the NFL draft stuff, I think it gets, the breakdowns get, there's too many of them, right? It's like ad nauseum. There's just breakdown after breakdown, okay? But what I do like about it, right, it really reinforces to me, how well do I know my own players, right? Am I doing breakdowns on my own guys, right? There's guys out there that watch film of people, right, that have better idea of some of these guys than maybe some of their coaches do, right? So how well do I really, really know my guys, right? So really, really diving into that and finding the things that they really do well, and then obviously working on their weaknesses, okay? So offensive organization and progression, right? Kind of a long way to get to what I've worked on all off season, okay? So listening to guys like Coach Sarkisian, listening to guys on the podcast and just kind of compiling this was the concept map I'd kind of made and felt pretty good about it. And it's really kind of, again, increased my organization and progression and planning as to how I build an offense. So again, it's still going to be player driven, right? If I have great running QBs, I'm probably going to live more in this world over here, right? My quarterback runs and my option. Okay. If I don't have, the great running QB, or, maybe he's a little bit bigger, I'm probably going to live more in the world of handing it off and RPOs. Okay. If you get really, really good at what you're going to do, and I love the quote there from Sarkisian, the more you do really well in offense, guess what? The harder it is you defend. Right. So being able to do a little bit of all these things, I think, can make you really, really difficult to defend. And again, if you can explain things simply, you're probably going to be able to teach them more simply to kids. So we do a little bit of all this stuff, guys. Marrying up our pass game and our run game, giving kids a little bit of empowerment there with our RPOs and key screens. Hey, if we don't have to do much more than, handing the ball off or running the quarterback or being able to throw a few RPOs, the game's going to be pretty easy, right? But we all know that's not going to be the case. We run into great teams. They're going to shut down some of those things that we want to be able to do. So kind of that next progression is, what are the things you're doing to protect all of these, right? And again, to me, that leads us into the play action game, right? And if I've got a guy that's a little bit more athletic, maybe I want to get him on the perimeter a little bit, okay? If I don't, a guy's a little bit better in the pocket, he can see over the things. Now I'm going to do pocket, okay? Some of the things we had done, in the past, obviously being a pretty big RPO team, we'd done a little bit of the screen pump stuff. We hadn't done enough of what I felt were kind of your RPO protection passes. So some of your double moves off of RPOs was kind of that next level. So knowing when teams are really, really screwing down on the RPO, teams are playing, one high. Teams are going to play, insert, or they're going to push to take away some of these things, right? Being able to really pump some of those throws, get guys to jump and try to sniff some of these things, and then being able to hit shots over the top. So I think RPO pumps have been a bigger part for us. The key screen pumps, I feel like, have also been the big ones. And obviously, handoff, play action fakes, whatever, you're going to be really, really good at that. You're making sure I have obviously passes off of those things and protections that look like those runs. I feel like right now we were a big pin and pull team. We could probably get a little bit better at, some of our nakeds off of pin pull. I feel like we could probably manipulate and maneuver some protections that might look a little bit more like pin pull and be able to take some shots off of it. Okay. Naturally, you're going to have to then work into the drop back game, guys. And our drop back game, I feel like, is rock solid. We've continued to evolve it. It's not going to ever be the centerpiece of what we do. We're huge believers in the run game, whichever version or form of it it's going to take that year. again, it's predicated by the players, but you're going to have to be able to drop back at some point. Whether it's 2-minute, you're down, you're not as talented as another team. You're going to have to be able to drop back against good teams, especially in the playoffs. You're going to have to convert some third downs. You're going to have to throw it on first down to be able to, keep people honest. Okay. Unless, you have the greatest offensive line in the history of your state, then it really doesn't matter. Right. But, where we're at, we're going to be lucky to have 5, maybe 6 offensive linemen. Okay. Some years they're going to be super dominant and tough. Other years it might not be as talented. So it is what it is. We're going to have to be able to drop back, and we've been blessed with a lot of good skill players. Okay. And then that last level, again, having enough change up and screens and specials that are going to be able to keep people off balance. So I think, again, being able to do these two, at least in our offense, right, it's keeping people off balance and being able to hit some explosive plays. Okay. Same thing with our play actions. But again, that would be kind of your progression. But again, you have to know what you are first to be able to start kind of building these things as a play caller and as an offense, right? And again, some of you might think, man, that's the simplest thing I've ever seen, Walls, or that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. That's fine. But for me, being able to kind of lay it all out like this and actually just doing the work, right? It's not the actual finished product. It was me doing the work that made me feel a lot better about all the things that we are doing. And it also allowed me to examine some of the holes in things that we're doing. Okay. Here's the next level it does, right? It also allows me to organize the teach tapes that I'm building. Okay. So our handoff teach tapes, all of our different schemes, man, gap and zone. Okay. All of our RPOs, the teach tapes I'm going to be able to build. I have lists of those now that I know I'm going to be able to build, right? All of our nakeds, your play action driving, going on right down the line. I'm able to have a checklist of things that I'm going to build teach tapes on. And then I might find some things that are missing. Hey, you know what? We need this in our offense. Or, hey, you know what? This has been really, really effective. Maybe I need to do a little bit more of this. Or what are a few different permutations we can run? What's a different shift we could run? What's a different motion we could run because we do run so much of it? Okay. So just doing that process for me, guys, taking that deep dive into our offense really, really helped me. Okay. With our run game, right? The way we set up our run game buckets, 3 different schemes. Keep it simple, right? Our 40 series is going to be all of our man runs. So dart, and then dart with the backside blocker, cap, okay? All of our zone schemes would be like our 50 series, okay? And we have multiple tags on these, right? So all these different, tags, inside zone where we lock the backside, mid zone where we lock the backside, and then outside zone. Okay, if we're under center, we put the dude in the pistol, right? And then all of our gap runs, weak side power, weak side counter, and pin pull. Guys, that's the bread and butter of what we do. And then I talk a lot about our bash series, being able to run some sweet stuff and how we block on the perimeter, okay? We add fullback tags to everything. So being able to run all these schemes, whichever one you want to do, and if you add a fullback to the blocking scheme, we can just tag it up. So force would be any player outside, lead would be the front side backer, Bob or slit, right? Bob, he's on the backside. Slit means he's sliding to the backside. Our seal and our cap. Okay, so it's a simple way, right? I know Coach Harper's coaching the superbacks now, but it's a simple way for you, right? If a kid forgets an assignment, having that tag or having that code word for them reminds them of what it might be, so they know. Okay, so it gives them the ability to be able to do that, right? Also, then all of our zone and gap fold combinations, I put all those things on there, right? Those are, pretty self-explanatory, but again, being able to, change a zone scheme into a fold scheme, right? Being able to, manipulate who's pulling on pin pull. It's all going to be set up by the terms that we use. And again, it's universal. Our guys can learn all those different terms. We can move guys around. It makes things a lot easier, right? The teaching for it becomes super, super quick. Okay. Play action pass, right? So again, this another deep dive. I found out, you know what? I've always loved play action passes. I need to do a better job of how could I categorize it. Okay. So thinking about, right, our pumps for RPO and our pumps for screens, right? And obviously be able to list these out as we go. But then, been doing the latest RTP premium, right? Being able to kind of see what are the major, categories of play action pass, right? Your regular verts would be one of them, okay? And then I know off of that, teams want to bail. So having tags versus teams that bail and play cover 3, bail and play deep 4, Okay, having some throwbacks off of your little half roll game. Okay, and then what I kind of call vert layers, right? Sending a guy vertical and then bringing somebody underneath him. Either he's on the same side and we flood it, or he's on the opposite side and he's crossing. Okay, so kind of vert layers to that. You could throw all different kinds in there, right? It could be 2 verts and a guy coming underneath it. It could be 2 verts and a guy sitting underneath it. So being able to figure out ways to flood it, ways to layer it. Okay, slot fade and smash, I put them in their own category. To me, you're throwing the ball outside. It could probably happen a little bit quicker, especially in the case of slot fade, right? Smash, everybody knows smash, right? And then the last one I put, kind of trap pass in there, the New England pop pass, where you're just having one puller and the ball's going to get out quick just because that protection is not going to be as sound. So it would almost be looking more like your RPO game, but maybe you're hitting a little bit more of the intermediate seams. Okay, so again, taking a better deep dive on the play action pass, I think it's only going to help my understanding of it, and I'm going to do a better job of having suggestions in our game plan meetings, because I feel like now I can really, really game plan for some of these things. What would be a guy we can attack with verts? Is this a bail team? So we want to have bail tags and run more layer stuff. Okay, are they going to play man? What are my favorite ways to run slot fade and smash? So again, talking about that progression of thinking, right? When I have it in buckets, it's a lot easier for me then to progress. It's a lot easier for me to be able to find those things, right? Do these guys really dive and drive on RPOs? Let's have a couple of path aheads for them, right? Do they play screens aggressively? Let's have a couple of pumps for them, okay? So not just kind of shooting from the hip, not having that bias, not assuming things, right? Having a piece of data that I can actually go back and look at, right? I'm going to use this document the whole year now, and I'll be able to go back and check some of these things out, okay? Last one, again, I'll show you guys our drop back one, right? So again, all the different ways that we attack things. And again, like I said, it looks like it's all over the place, and kind of might be that for you. But for me, again, it puts me in these categories, and it really, really allows me to kind of look at, how I want to attack things. What are the teams doing mostly? What are my starting points? And then what are my favorite ways to run it? So, hey, I like 3 verts every week. What's going to be our best way to run it? If they're a huge man team, maybe we want to add some shallows to it, right? Maybe we want to, if they're a big blitz team, maybe we want to add a couple of nudge or bump protect, right? And then be able to get some guys out late. So you can always kind of dress these things up. But, again, I think if you don't have a document to look at and go back to, you forget things, right? So having this as kind of a menu and a thought process, a flow chart, a workflow, whatever you want to call it, it's just something I think it's a really, really good tool for me as I'm trying to build game plans on the weekend. Okay, guys, if there's anything we could do for you guys with Run the Power, I know I'm probably coming up here on my time. Looks like it's 48, so I think I'm pretty close there. I think we said we're supposed to go about 45, and then we'll probably open it up here at the end. But if there's anything we can do, obviously, guys, we're at Run the Power. If there's speed products that you guys are looking to buy, I know like the free laps and things like that, rtpspeed.com. It takes you guys straight to Simply Faster, but it helps us out a little bit, with costs and things like that. If you guys ever buy anything through RTP Speed, seriously, guys, hit me up. We'll talk to you guys about our speed program, the ways that we're implementing, Feed the Cats, the ways we do, Feed the Hawks and things like that. I know I didn't get a bunch into that, but just understand players are primary and speed is primary in our program. And there's a few things that we do. But again, we got to have good tools and good data in order to get that done. So I hope you guys got something out of that. I'm not sure how we're supposed to kind of end this thing, but I'm guessing that Matt and those guys are still on here.
Yeah, definitely. And we are about out of time. So I just want to thank you, Coach, for taking your time and talking with us. Some awesome stuff on organization and progression. It was great. So thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right. You have a good night.
Thank you, sir.